Ho, ho, ho. Welcome to Coffee and Crypto, Lee and Jimmy. I am Lee Reiners, joined as always by Jimmy Lenz. Jimmy, it's that time.
It is that time. Are you feeling like a big elf right now?
Yeah,
I'm
a
feeling kind
little
of like an
bit.
elf right
A
now. It's,
little
it's
bit.
that time of year. No, I love this time of year. Always fun, as we were talking about before. Families and friends and all that kind of stuff are getting together for Hanukkah and Christmas, and then it'll be New Year's. Although New Year's, I don't think is a big deal anymore. It's not what it used to be.
You get older, it's not for sure. I was never a big New Year's
Maybe.
guy
Well, young
either.
people don't drink either, so that's probably a good thing.
Yeah, I don't know. If with New Year's, I just like you're just celebrating the passage of time. I
I
don't know. It's
guess.
like it's
I,
a
I,
weird.
I
I've
never
always
I
kind
never
of
got it, but it's
yeah.
kind of like
You and me
amateur
both.
hour.
Yeah, but if you're young, it's fun to go out, I guess.
I guess.
All right, Jimmy. Well,
But hey,
this
Christmas is here, Hanukkah's here, and it's
Christmas.
time for the list to come out.
It is time. He sees you when you're sleeping. Okay. He knows when
Knows
you're
when you're
awake.
awake.
All right. And so this is our annual naughty and nice list episode, Jimmy.
It is the naughty and nice time of year.
It's our last episode of 2025. And we do this every year. So the ground rules, which I sent to you earlier this week,
Yes, you
is
did.
that we each get to pick, right? Three people. Now they have to be individuals. Okay, can't be companies or anything like that. So they have to be three individuals for our naughty list, three individuals for our nice list. Okay. Now I have no idea who's on your list. You have no idea who's on my list. We're going to each try to have. We hope that we'll have different people, but I think in the past we've had the same people. So we have
We
an
have to have one
alternate.
or two that we had to have a little bit of overlap.
So this year, to try to make sure that we have each three distinct people, we have an alternate. Okay, so if one of us says something that was also on our list, then we'll bring in the alternate. Okay, so that's the setup here, Jimmy. Let's start with naughty, right? Let's start with naughty.
Ooh.
So and there's no order here, so these are just
No,
three.
there's no ranking order here.
So who? Give me a name on your naughty list, Jimmy.
You know who tops my naughty list? It's not going to be who you expect, and it's actually partners, but Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger top my naughty list.
Well, he's dead. Charlie Munger's dead. You can't put a dead person on a naughty list.
But before he passed away.
It's not a retroactive
So that's why it's
naughty
just Warren
list.
Buffett.
Okay, just Warren.
Maybe
All right,
maybe
Warren
they're kind of
Buffett.
like partners,
Wow.
like Scrooge
Okay.
and like Scrooge and his partner. But
Jacob
no,
Marley. Yeah. So Jacob Marley is Charlie Munger.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Warren Buffett he has a huge platform, right? I mean, he has one of the biggest platforms there are. He continues down this path of painting all digital assets as, and I'm quoting here, rat poison squared. It's unbelievable to me that someone in his position continues to harp on this in such a big way. Non-productive asset that has no intrinsic value, that it violates all fundamentals of asset valuation principle. Those kinds of things are what he came out with. I just think it's about time that he rolls over. So he kind of tops my
roll over. What do we roll over into the grave, or
no, roll over in his opinions.
His opinions. Oh, okay, good. Glad we clarified that.
Not his grave. No. Warren is still very much with us. We're not going down that road. Warren is still very much with us.
Yes, he is. Although I always feel like every December, like the last 2 weeks, it's like we lose a lot of folks, man. I feel like every year, celebrities, like famous people, we lose a lot.
Yeah.
It's I don't know if there's statistics out there, but just anecdotally, it feels
I think a lot of people just pass away as it gets colder too. I think it's you don't.
I think a lot of people want to hold on to Christmas. It's like if you're kind of close, you're like, okay, let me just make it to Christmas. And then after that, you give up. All right. Well, that sounds like I should have put Warren on my nice list there, maybe, Jimmy. Okay, so so I have on my naughty list, okay, someone that you probably haven't heard of, Narvikar. Okay,
Heard that name. Maybe it's from you?
I don't think so. So Narvikar, and I'm probably butchering that last name pronunciation there, is the chief executive officer of the Harvard Management Company, okay, which manages Harvard University's endowment. Now, obviously, Harvard's finances have come under a bit of pressure recently for obvious reasons, right? So not, probably not a time to be taking, big risk with the endowment, right? Going to need the endowment to maybe step up
Well,
and
especially
fund a
Harvard,
little more.
right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Now, look, it's 57 billion, I think, total endowment. So, they got a little breathing room for sure. But anyway, in the third quarter of this year, okay, the Harvard endowment, okay, bought. Let's see here. The Harvard endowment bought over 4 million shares of the BlackRock IBIT, the Bitcoin fund. Okay. That brings their total holdings to $500 million in IBIT. Okay. And obviously, we know what has happened to Bitcoin prices. Okay. Since the last quarter. Okay. They are
Yeah,
down.
yeah, they've had
So,
a
we can say roughly, Harvard paid, close to $300 million for shares that are now significantly worth less. Now, again, drop in the bucket, folks.
yeah. Yeah,
But
this
man,
is a huge fund.
this is a huge fun. But man, what a swing and a miss! What a swing and a miss when right now the Harvard endowment manager needs to be projecting competency and confidence. So not a smart move there. Bad timing. It's hard to time the market, of course, but Narv, you really screwed up on this one. All right, Jimmy, let's move on to the nice list. We'll go over to nice. Who do you have at the top of your nice
Now,
list?
this is gonna be a gimme for me, okay? Paul
Okay.
Atkins. Paul Atkins.
Wow.
I
Wow.
mean, Paul Atkins has heralded in a really, really broad adoption of digital assets, all digital assets. And yeah, he's the kind of the figurehead for a lot of things that have happened. But I'm going to
Hmm.
use him because we had to use a person. So I'm going to say Paul Atkins. I mean, obviously, in this past year, we've seen crypto assets grow, across the board, all different types of assets, different types of entities. I mean, just this week we had, the trust bank approved. These kinds of things, I think, they kind of come down from the top, and so I think that Paul Atkins has to top my list there. We've seen a lot of things happen. We've seen a lot of traditional finance companies finally start to roll over. We've talked about some last week that have started to add digital assets to their asset allocation. And so I think he has to top my list. I mean, who else?
Wow. I think we should. Our list could honestly be inverse because he would be. He's not on my he's not on my naughty list. So he easily could be. I thought about putting him on my naughty list because he's a diehard libertarian. Libertarians, these are not people that we should let run regulatory agencies. We see how that played out before with Alan Greenspan. That's my take on it. All right, but that's a good pick, Jimmy. I understand why you said that. All right, top of my list here, Jamie Dimon. Jamie Dimon here.
Ooh, we have one in common.
We have okay. So now you're gonna have to go. You're gonna have to go to your alternate list here. Jamie Dimon. Look, when I think it's a fair statement to say that he's probably the best CEO in Wall Street history, honestly. And Wall Street's changed a lot. Obviously the namesake of his firm, was a pretty good CEO in his own right. Okay. The original John Pierpont. But certainly, I mean, he's been at the top for a long time. He's still at the top of his game. He's still sharp. And I think, like all great executives, he is willing to pivot, um, when the facts change. And I think he has great people. I mean, the success, right? One of the things that makes a manager truly great is if they surround themselves with great people. Obviously, there's been a lot of recent crypto announcements coming out of the firm. Okay. And I think that what makes it so interesting is Jamie Dimon for the longest time was known as like a crypto skeptic, right? I mean, he repeatedly would bash it. I think he called it a digital pet rock and whatnot.
Well,
I mean,
yeah, kind
look,
of.
but that's what he was known as. But I think all the while there was people within the firm, okay, who were plugging away, right, doing the hard work, right, the nitty gritty work, recognizing that there was something here, right? And he empowered them, right? He didn't stop them. He didn't shut these things down. They had blockchain projects going on, right? So I think he the whole time was open-minded enough. And if you trust your people and you have talented people and they come to you and say, "Hey, we think there's actually something to this, or we think this is where things are going," he, to his credit, said, "Okay, let's go, let's do it." And so, just over the past week or so, Jimmy, we've seen some pretty significant announcements coming from JP Morgan. So
Extremely significant.
JP Morgan Asset Management earlier this week launched its first tokenized money market fund, the My On-Chain Net Yield Fund, or Money. It's on the
I
Ethereum
love that.
blockchain. On Ethereum, the fund is seeded with $100 million of JP Morgan capital, targets qualified investors only, and it invests exclusively in U.S. Treasuries, Treasury-backed repos. Investors can access the fund via Morgan Money. They get tokens directly to their wallet. They get daily yield, can subscribe or redeem using cash or stablecoins, USDC, right? So this is a pretty significant development. They underwrote a tokenized bond offering for Galaxy Digital as well last week, and at Digital Assets at Duke, and they have JPM Dollar, right? And we're going to hear from one of the people working on JPM Dollar. So there's a lot going on, digital assets, blockchain related at JP Morgan, and kudos to Jamie Dimon for having the flexibility of mind, Jimmy, as I think you and I both strive to have.
Yep.
Um, and
I think
and
that
adjusting.
that's a great pick. Honestly, I mean, it's funny because my reasons were pretty much the same as yours,
Yeah, there we go.
across the board.
Okay, so let's go back to Naughty. Who's on?
Naughty.
Give me another Naughty name.
My so I all of mine are going to be a little bit uncharacteristic, I think, this year, for a couple of reasons. But I think that for as I said, the one that I had before, the Buffett, that was a little bit of a shift. Probably people don't expect that. The next one that I have on here is somebody else who is probably a little bit uncharacteristic, Nouriel Roubini.
Oh,
So
Dr.
for those,
Doom.
Nouriel Roubini, economist, been around for he's probably as old as Warren Buffett. I mean, he's been around a
He's not that
long,
old.
long
He's
time.
not that old. Yeah.
You don't think he's that old? Maybe.
No,
I don't know. I think
no way.
he's another one that continues to write and spout opinions. I mean, this is an economist an academic who writes papers, writes books. Although everything that he's really done around crypto has been opinions. It has been very different. Mother of all bubbles, the giant scam. There's no scalability. It's just a fraud basically. And I think that he's a little bit different because like Warren Buffett's money manager, everybody listens to him. Nouriel Roubini's a little bit different because he is if there's such a thing as a central bank influencer, it's Nouriel Roubini. I don't know that he's actually been employed by central banks, but they certainly do listen to him. He certainly speaks to them. And so this is one that I was doing a lot of research when we started talking about this. And this is one that I'm very surprised that with everything being done, with all of the development you just talked about with, places like JP Morgan and things that are out there, he continues to be on this path of it's just a giant scam. Yeah. Yeah.
He's 60. I just looked it up. He's 67. He did
Oh,
work
is that all?
in the Council of Economic Advisors in the Clinton administration.
Jeez. I
Yeah,
thought he
he's
was
one of those
older.
guys. So he called the subprime mortgage collapse, and that kind of made him famous. Similar to like a Michael Burry. Michael Burry's been in the news quite a bit lately.
Yeah,
but
he has.
kind of once you make a
For a
big
different
call,
reason, though.
yeah. Well, once you get a big call correctly like that, you're sort of like forever etched in the minds of financial media as like this like expert, right? But the reality is like, okay, you got one big call right, doesn't mean that you're great at predicting events, right? Okay, well that's an interesting one, Jimmy. On my naughty list, next up I have Greg Bear. Now, Greg Bear is the CEO of the Bank Policy Institute, BPI. They are kind of a trade organization. I mean, they also put out good research and whatnot, and they advocate on behalf of primarily large banks. And I think the thing that is sort of most stunning to me about the crypto policy conversation and debates over the past couple of years is the extent to which crypto is now the apex predator in Washington, D.C. Right? For folks like you and I, Jimmy, it is sort of unfathomable or was unfathomable that the big banks would ever lose a significant policy fight. And they are losing left and right now in DC. They lost big on the Genius Act, right? Stable coins. And now there's sort of a rear guard attack here, action to try to close the so-called payment on interest loopholes. Another more recent loss for BPI in the banking industry was the OCC's approval of 5 national trust bank charters for crypto-related firms, and BPI fought on that. Look, I actually think, on a lot of their arguments, they're right on the merits. Now, for most issues, historical issues like bank capital, supervision, I totally disagree with BPI. I think they're making good points on crypto and the banking system, but they are losing. Greg Barry, you are losing. So get your act together. And you need to start going on offense here because you're getting steamrolled by crypto in DC. All right, Jimmy, next up, who is on your nice list?
This one's probably going to be another one that's going to be a little bit surprising to you. Brian Armstrong, and actually his CFO too, Alicia Haas. But I know we can only have one person, so it's going to be Brian because he's the head of the company. My reason is CEO of Coinbase. I think everybody knows that. I am one of the reasons that he's on the list is because this was supposed to this year. There was supposed to be a lot more competition. Coinbase was going to go away, and instead they've gotten bigger. They have gotten very creative. I think that they have expanded their offerings just tremendously, and they have a lot of things on the drawing board. And so I think the fact that they've come out and they said that they are looking to be a lot more than a crypto exchange. They've actually followed up with it, right? They've actually done a lot of stuff that has heralded in, I think, more people. But I think that they are also looking to really take things a lot more mainstream. They already have. I mean, obviously they provide services to retail investors, and they have basically they're the whole shoot match when it comes to buying and settling and custody and all that kind of stuff. But they're also doing a lot more in the space, and so he's on my nice list because I think he continues to build, and me, I love builders. He continues to build, continues to create, and the firm continues to impress me the way that kind of the direction that he's taken things.
Yeah, well, then they just launched prediction markets too, or announced they're going to do prediction markets as well. So yeah, they are quickly becoming the everything app, right? As Paul Atkins said. Okay, so next up on my nice list, Jimmy, is essentially a counter to your Paul Atkins inclusion, and so I am going with his colleague, Commissioner Caroline Crenshaw. She is the lone Democrat remaining at the SEC. It's frankly amazing that Trump hasn't fired her yet, because he's obviously fired other Democratic commissioners. But her term is coming to an end here in about a month, I think less than a month. She was renominated for another term by President Biden, but in the tail end of the Biden administration, Senate Republicans wouldn't vote on her confirmation after pushback from the crypto industry, who viewed her as sort of not supportive enough, I guess. So she has been kind of sort of serving on borrowed time, so to speak, but it's coming to an end. She has become essentially the new Hester under the Atkins SEC, right? So, Hester became well known for these sort of blistering dissents on various SEC actions. That's the role that Crenshaw has played. And she gave a sort of a farewell speech the other week at the Brookings Institution. And she didn't hide her feelings about the U-turn at the SEC under the Trump administration. Okay. And she said, look, there's this chaos here since Republicans took over. She said the appetite to deregulate has been rapacious. And she said, look, given everything that's going on, not just, and it was broader than just crypto. This was not a crypto, she talked about digital assets, but this was broader than crypto, right? The, mandatory arbitration, a lot of things going on. And she says, "Look, this is reminding me and others a lot of events leading up to the 1929 crash." Right. So she said, Chair Atkins' agenda is devaluing investor rights, eroding core tenets of securities laws, ceding enforcement power, and moving in a direction where markets start to look like casinos. So I think this was a great speech. I think, unfortunately, in probably near term, if not medium term, folks are going to be coming back to this speech and saying, wow, she got a lot right. All right, Jimmie, next, your final naughty candidate.
My final naughty candidate. This is another one you're going to say, yeah, of course. Elizabeth Warren. For those of you who haven't been keeping up, she is actually the architect of a kind of anti-crypto legislation, and certainly anti-crypto legislative pressure continues. Despite what is happening, despite the demand from people, from retail, from institutional people, she continues to pound this drum, and she can actually do something about it. In the legislature. So she continues to be on my naughty list. I don't continues because I didn't add her out last year, but she is on there. She is probably one of the loudest voices. And this is, we can't forget, this has been a very bipartisan effort in a world that is not very bipartisan. This has been a bipartisan effort. The approval and the Genius Act and things like that. And here we have somebody trying to gin up anti-crypto legislation that is, who is she serving? I mean,
The
who is she
people.
serving? Does she
She's
listen to her
serving the people.
constituents at all?
Yes, most people don't like crypto or trust it, Jimmie. You got to get out of your bubble, my brother. Well, fair enough. It's your list. You can put who you want on it. I should have put it on my nice list. I'm a big fan of Senator Warren. She's not pushing, she's just trying to, stop bad crypto legislation. I'll put it that way. All right, Jimmie. So I have kind of an inverse again here of your naughty. The last person on my naughty list, President Donald J. Trump.
Yeah, I kind of
Now,
figured you might have him on there.
now there are a lot of reasons for President Trump to be on the naughty list, but this is, coffee and crypto. So we'll stick with crypto. Look, we have never seen a president of the United States profit off of his office the way that Donald Trump has. Frankly, it just is astounding. Okay. So it's been reported by Reuters that the Trump family raked in more than $800 million in income from sales of crypto assets in the first half of 2025 alone. Some estimates put the value of President Trump's crypto related holdings as high as $11.5 billion. Okay, so more of his wealth is tied up in crypto than anything else at this point in time.
Interesting.
So this is just an egregious abuse of power and profiteering off of a position of public trust. But it has also thrown a huge monkey wrench into ongoing negotiations in the Senate around market structure, because there are more than a handful, of Senate Democrats who are amenable to proceeding and wanting to get to a bipartisan agreement on market structure legislation, who are asking for there to be conflict of interest provisions put in the bill so we don't have, right, people serving in public office, right, directly profiting, right, from crypto holdings. Okay. And it's a pretty simple ask. So he has really done the crypto industry a disservice here by just being so blatant and rapacious with his crypto money grab here. And if you listen to people and talk to people in crypto, I mean, they will acknowledge that this is not helpful. So Donald Trump, you haven't helped the crypto industry cause here with your get rich quick schemes. All right,
Y-
Jimmie, who do you have?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I think that no, I have to tell you, I think that people sometimes don't realize that it really he hasn't helped. I mean, yeah, he obviously ushered in an area and he's put some pressure on different areas, or he's appointed people to areas that have helped out the industry. But he personally, I would agree with you. I don't think he's helped out the industry.
Yeah, I mean, they'll still, if you ask, they'll tell you that, right? They don't say it too loudly because they don't want to piss them off, right, and be targeted. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. All right, Jimmie, the last person, okay, on your nice list.
The last person on my nice list, because you took my my Jamie Dimon pick,
Oh, I'm
is
sorry.
that's okay. It's going to be our friend Rodney Hood. Um,
Rodney.
Rodney
Nice.
makes my list, and the reason is, when he was in his former role as the comptroller of the currency, I mean, he really did usher in a lot of the rules, a lot of the legislation around the Genius Act, and in particular as it applied to banks. And so the idea that he was able to help push that across the border, he was able to get the first definition of what a stable coin would be and what it won't be. I have to put him on. He was on there as my alternate. I almost thought he would be in the top three, but Jamie
It's
Dimon
okay.
obviously has a little
Sorry,
broader.
Rodney. You're
But
just not quite Jamie
but
Dimon,
I
but yeah,
mean,
we
he's
love you.
I wonder if there had been someone else in that role, if that would have been pushed through as comprehensively as it was and as quickly as it was.
Well, as Rodney said, acting did not mean inactive, and he was
Yep.
certainly active during
Yep.
his short stint there as acting comptroller of the currency. Looking forward, of course, to hearing from him at Digital Assets at Duke in February. Okay, so the last person on my nice list, Jimmy, this is one you're not going to probably see coming. U.S. District Judge Paul Engelmeyer. Okay,
Wow.
district,
That's
yes,
that's from left field there, Lee.
that
You
is
got me
from
on that
left
one.
field. All right, I didn't think you would get this one. So last week, Judge Engelmeyer sentenced South Korean cryptocurrency entrepreneur Do Kwon to 15 years in prison. Okay. Now, this exceeds what the government was asking, right? The government wanted 12 years. His lawyers were asking for 5 years because he's also facing charges in Korea. And the thought is that they would serve some time in Korea as well. But Judge Engelmeyer, to his credit, decided to send a message, right, to the world and certainly to the crypto industry that fraud is not to be tolerated. Okay. This is a strong deterrent message. I still think, Jimmy, there is a mentality out there that sort of, crypto is not, it's not real money. It's not real fraud, right? Code is law,
You
kind of
think so?
anything. I think so. I mean, I certainly think even amongst like crypto boosters, it's kind of like, it's this sort of alternative universe where, like there are no rules, code is law, you can kind of do what you want. Um, and I think part of that is because a lot of these victims of these crypto scams, they're just not visible, right? I think a lot of them are embarrassed. A lot of this occurs online, but it's not in the sense that we saw with Bernie Madoff, right? Where the victims were on TV, lining up outside his office, lining up outside various court hearings and whatnot, right? Um, but Kwan lost $40 billion, okay, of investor money when the Terra Luna collapsed back in 2022. He obviously lied about it, lied about the stabilization peg, lied about the use of Terra, and you had hundreds of victims submit letters to the court, including from one individual who lost over $400,000, right? So these were real victims, and I was just glad to see, a pretty stiff, but I thought, correct sentence be handed down to kind of remind folks that, crypto fraud is fraud. Okay. Yeah, so I know it's a little bit odd kind of putting someone who sentenced someone to a long jail sentence on a nice list, but I think he was appropriate
Yeah.
in doling out that. So thank you, Judge Engelmeyer, right, for for standing up against fraud. Okay,
I think standing up for fraud is always a good
against
thing.
fraud, not standing up
Against
for
well, yeah,
fraud.
standing up
Yeah,
against fraud, always a good thing. And in any circumstance, there should be no fraud tolerated. In So that's a nice pick. Would not have picked him myself, obviously, but nice pick.
there you go. All right, Jimmy. Well, look, I hope you and your family have a very happy holidays. Of course, wish the same to all of our listeners. Thank you for sticking with us. Love the feedback. Love the comments. Keep them coming. Okay.
Lee, have a great Christmas. You the boys are just at the right age, I think. Man, you guys are
Yeah.
going to have a blast.
Well, my
It's going to be
son,
a
my
lot of
4-year-old, you know what he told me last night? He
fun.
says, "Daddy, I think you're on Santa's nice list." So
What's that?
I made
Well,
it.
hey,
I made it.
that's
That's
not bad confirmation. That is not bad confirmation. That's great to hear from your kids.
it's the best. You can't ask for
It
anything
is.
better than that. All right, brother. Have a happy holidays, and I will talk to you soon.
You do the same. Thank you, Lee.